This is Capital Perspective with Senator Edward Kennedy, a forum for discussions with local community leaders to highlight local and national issues that affect the people of Massachusetts. Senator Kennedy has been committed to serving the people of Massachusetts for many years on a wide range of important issues in both foreign and domestic policy. Edward Kennedy, showcasing the achievements and successes of the people of Massachusetts. And now, Senator Edward Kennedy.
Everyone watching this show wants to live their lives without having to worry about crime and violence. We don't want to worry about our children's safety when they play outside with their friends. We don't want to be afraid walking home from work at night. We don't want to be concerned that someone will harm our elderly parents and grandparents. We've learned from experience that it takes the cooperation of the entire community to fight and prevent crime. It requires police and probation officers, clergy, school officials, community leaders, and ordinary citizens all coming together to do the job. We also need to strengthen existing programs that discourage gang membership and provide realistic alternatives for at-risk youth. And it's time to bring sanity to the nation's gun laws. Each year, 30,000 Americans are killed as a result of gun violence. We need to take guns out of the hands of gang members and other violent offenders and give local law enforcement every tool available to prevent gun crimes. Congress can and must do more. Today, we'll hear firsthand about the challenges we face and about the progress being made by leaders on the issue here in our state. Ed Davis became the commissioner of Boston Police Department in 2006 after spending 28 years in the Lowell Police Department. Since coming to Boston, Commissioner Davis has worked hard to improve relations between the community and local police, and his impressive efforts are achieving results. Homicides in Boston dropped almost 10% last year, and aggravated assaults and non-fatal shootings also fell. It's an honor to have the commissioner here today. Our second guest, Gregg Cruteau, is an executive director of the United Teen Equality Center in Lowell. He's a leading expert on gang violence, and he gave compelling testimony in the United States Senate last year. It's great to have him here for today's discussion. And our third guest today is Gwynn Hughes, executive director of the Massachusetts Afterschool Partnership. It's a statewide network working to improve youth programs throughout the Commonwealth. Gwen understands that good after-school programs are an essential part of reducing youth violence, and she'll discuss some of the innovative initiatives available to our youth. So thank you all for being here. And Commissioner Davis, I'd like to start with you since you became a commissioner. I know one of your top priorities has been building trust between our police, our residents, and community organizations. Can you talk about some of the challenges you're facing on the streets of Boston and why community involvement and cooperation is so essential in reducing crime?
Certainly. Thank you, Senator. It's great to see you again, and I know you've been involved in these issues for many, many years, and we appreciate your support. We certainly have issues about trust between the police department and the community. There's been years of history that have affected the community's perception of the Boston Police Department and how police work in the community. And we've taken significant steps over the last couple of years to really get out of the police cars, put officers out on the street in footbeats and in bicycle positions so that they're able to communicate with the members of the community. Having more face time with the community is really an important component of establishing trust, but not concentrating solely on arrest, making sure that we're doing quality of life enforcement, making sure that we're responsive to the community's concerns, and making sure that we establish dialogues with teenagers, with business people, and with people who live in our neighborhoods that are affected by violence so that they can tell us what they need from us and we can provide a service to them.
This is the basis for the concept of the Safe Street teams, and also you mentioned this the TIPS text tip program, which is you're establishing a presence out in the community, developing the confidence of the community in the policing function. And also, because of this, it's helping you to bring a better peace and stability within these communities.
It is. We don't solve crime through CSI. I mean, there's a lot of conversation about investigators going out with microscopes and fingerprints and things like that. Those are all very helpful, but the truth of the matter is we solve crime because people tell us who did it. Every good detective knows that. And so we've established several programs, besides just the face-to-face communication and increasing the trust between the police department and the community through our uniform branch. We also have a program that we put into place that allows people to call us and anonymously give us information. We've also leveraged technology so that when you go to the crime scene and you see these kids on their cell phones talking or texting each other, we've made it possible to utilize this texting technology that the kids are very, very comfortable with to communicate with us. And so if someone has information on a crime, they can text a tip to crime on their cell phone, and we can have a conversation with them. And it's important to stress that we have no idea who is talking to us. These communications come through a company that strips off all the identifying information. We do not have access to it, but we do have the ability to communicate back and forth on the texting system, and it's provided an incredible amount of information to us over the last year. Our phone calls and our text tips have increased by 500% since this program was put into place.
Well, that's an extraordinary achievement, and that is only done because people have confidence in the men and women that are part of your organization.
There's no question.
And they develop that confidence, willing to cooperate more, and willing to do things to help get a more peaceful community. We'll come back to some of these programs because they're enormously important, and we've had a role in them at the national level in the Senate in terms of support of them, which we've now seen that this administration, the Bush administration, cut back, and I want to get your reaction to some of those. But talking about sort of building confidence and reaching out to the community. Let me ask you, Gwen, a bit about the after-school programs. These are education programs, but I always remember the wonderful summer programs that we used to have, not only here in Boston but around our Commonwealth. Those have dried up, and there are companies, private sectors trying to fill in, try and help and assist. Why are these after-school programs so important from a crime point of view? I think we know from an education point of view the value that they are to these children in terms of enhancing their educational opportunities. But let's look at this just from the issue of crime. Why are these programs so important?
Sure, and thank you, Senator, for inviting me here today and for highlighting this important issue. I think just as recently as 2007, there was a study that was released showing, again, that the hours between 3 and 6 are the prime time for juvenile crime. And we know that if kids are involved and engaged in after-school activities that are fun, that it really does have an impact on reducing crime and, as you're pointing out, giving them opportunities to learn and, increase their significant results in school. So we do know that after school, I think, at this point, has a more powerful track record than ever before of showing how positive the impacts can be on children and youth.
I had heard some statistic also about unwanted pregnancies, that this is a time also that is a key in terms of that particular issue as well. If you have an opportunity to keep young people involved, some in education, some in sports, some developing skills in the communities, but they're involved and engaged, and it makes an enormous difference. We certainly see from an educational point of view. The statistics for those that are involved in the after-school programs, that demonstrate that they do significantly better than the other children in the classroom.
It's absolutely true, Senator. That time period is when youth, particularly middle and high school age youth, are going to engage in unsafe behavior. They are much more likely to do that. They're much more likely to use drugs, alcohol, become victims of crime. And these are all, study after study shows that this is what happens during this period of time if we don't offer other alternatives. And we know that youth would much rather be engaged in fun activities than getting in trouble. So it's incumbent on us to continue to provide more and more of these opportunities that can prevent this from happening.
This is a good point to underline that the young people are prepared to either enjoy or participate in these programs. They get the opportunity. So a large part of that responsibility is ours, to making sure that those opportunities that are there. Well, I'm like to hear, Gregg, if you're facing those in so many instances, those young people who don't get the opportunities, and you've been doing that for such a considerable period of time, and have we valued very much your coming down at the time in the Senate when we were looking at gang legislation. We're looking at overall what the United States Congress can do with this issue and problem, and we were lucky enough to have you come down there, and you made an enormously constructive and positive presentation that was very, very helpful to us, and so we're very grateful for your being here, as well as our panel. And maybe you could tell us a little bit from the experience up in Lowell, and what your own kind of background has been about this issue about violence and youth, and about how we can deal with it, what are the most successful pathways to deal with it, and what you think we can be doing more of and should be doing more of.
And thank you again, Senator. It was thank you for all your leadership and support of when we went down to D.C. It was a great experience for us and the young people that came down here, came down to D.C. as well. So we really appreciated that opportunity. UTEC started about 9 years ago. It started as a movement led by young people. At that time, they saw that there was a need to have a safe space in downtown Lowell, and downtown Lowell was really considered the one neutral zone, free from any gang activity. And at that point, young people were in the lead in creating their own safe space. And from the very beginning, it's been really led by young people. And for us, we see that as one of the key factors, to really allow young people to have the opportunity to own their own agency, to get them involved, so they're not necessarily seen as the problems, but rather the problem solvers. So I think when it comes to the gang violence, we talk a lot about it in the sense of trying to strip it away from it being seen just as a gang problem. Because as you know, and all the leadership you've proven, it's really the gang issue, the youth violence issue is really an issue of factors such as poverty, prejudice, class, that all combine and create this need for gangs, for young people. And I think until we hit at those issues and those root causes, it's always still at that surface level. So I think in Lowell, a lot of times young people who are actively involved in gangs aren't necessarily involved because of drugs or territory. There are some, and in different cities there's different circumstances. But a lot of times it's involved with respect. A lot of times it's involved because of the colors that they might see another young person. And these are situations that you wonder, how can a young person become involved in a gang? How can they engage in violence because of a disrespect or because of a color? But it's all these other underlying issues which we see as some of the challenges, and those are the true challenges for us. So I think we've been able to utilize what we call street workers, street outreach workers that are on the street, engaging and building the relationships with young people. We know the challenge is it just takes time. It takes a significant amount of time to build those relationships, but over the past 4 or 5 years, we've been able to build relationships, particularly with those young we identify as we call the shot callers of different gang sets, build relationships with them, and over time, engage them in discussion where eventually we facilitate what we call peace summits. And so these leaders of different rival gang sets eventually will go through a process that are facilitated by our street workers, and eventually we'll take them often away from Lowell, Sometimes it'll be in an island in Maine. We've driven 6 hours, and they've actually, one of our first summits is where the rival gang leaders actually kayaked out together to the island and facilitated a peace summit. And last year we facilitated 3 different peace summits between rival gang sets. But again, the challenge for us is just having that lasting investment, knowing that intervention needs to be combined with both prevention and enforcement.
What's your sense about